Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
HaChodesh.
It is important to note that there is, in Judaism, a differentiation between heavens, as in the afterlife, Olam Haba, and the heavens, Shemaim, that's the stars and the moon and that stuff up there. Tonight, I'm talking about Shemaim, the heavens up there. Next week, there will be two events that happen Bashamayim, in the heavens. Anyone? There's going to be an eclipse. Two eclipses. Now you say, one is the solar eclipse we've all been hearing about, and Mark Jaffe has glasses for them. Do you have glasses for them? Without a doubt. But there is, in fact, next week also another eclipse of a sort. It's a more regular eclipse. What is being eclipsed next week in addition to the moon passing in front of the sun? What? That is right. The moon passing in, the earth passing in front of the moon, which means what do we not see in the sky? The moon. And what do we know that tells us about the Jewish calendar? It's a lunar calendar, so it's a new month. It is the month of Nisan. This is Shabbat HaChodesh. This is the Shabbat of the big month. What happens in 2 weeks after that new moon? Passover. And so that is important in one of my rabbinic duties, and I tell you at Hebrew Union College Jewish Institution, they stress this. Tell your folks 2 weeks before Pesach, it's time to get ready. It even showed up in Exodus, and it said in 2 weeks, get ready, it's Pesach. You're leaving Egypt. In 2 weeks, you are going to be having Seders. Start getting ready. Please feel free to sign up. Our temple Seders on the second night. It's over in the social hall. It will be lovely. So tonight, because it is Shabbat HaChodesh, and approaching a new month in this month of Nisan, and because we in fact will have an eclipse where the sun will be in the sky, but the moon will pass in front of it, will be darkness, but bright. Don't look at the sun if you're not wearing proper eye protection. I did feel like it was important to share with you a story about a rabbi and the moon. It is in fact a story from the town of Chelm. Have any of you been to Chelm? Do any of you feel like you live in Chelm? Oy. By that it tells me that some of you know about Chelm stories. So Chelm is a place in Yiddish story that is populated, in fact, by a bunch of fools. People that do all kinds of absurd things, silly things. They think they've got all the answers, but in fact, all they do is interesting things like this. Now, they said, and they noticed, that the moon is in phases. It goes full, and then it gets into a 3/4, and then a half, and a crescent, and it disappears, and then it's dark and gloomy. Remember, there aren't electric lights. It was dark, it was gloomy, it was depressing. We need the moon. And they said to themselves, our friends from Chelm, they wanted the moon all the time. And so what did they come up with? Their brilliant idea. If they capture the moon, then on the nights that they are worried that it's too dark out and they need some brightness, they will be able to release from their place of capture the moon, and then they will have what we all know as moon on demand. You probably can stream that channel now. Now, you might ask how, unlike Gru, they are going to capture the moon. That was a Minions reference. Did anyone get my Minions reference? Okay, at least one. Okay, thank you. Gru did in fact capture the moon. Great movie. So, how do you, if you are in Chelm, capture the moon? Any suggestions? You could, in fact, but that would be blocking out the moon. We need to actually capture it so we have it for later use. Now, there was a gentleman, one of the brilliant sages of Chelm, and he said, look, I noticed that when the moon is full and I am eating a bowl of soup, if I look down into my soup, there the moon will be reflected into my soup. The moon appears in my soup. The moon is in my soup, and that is how we will capture the moon. Because what we will do is make a giant pot of soup, okay? No Canada because it throws everything off. And we are going to have our giant bowl of soup. The moon will come up. We will have our cover. And as the moon falls into our bowl of soup, we will cover the soup and we will have captured the moon. Okay, who's with me? Who's with me? Okay, so there they are. And you can decide, is it a gazpacho, a clear broth? Has it got Canada parsnips? There's lots of discussion of the type of soups that they would in fact make in Chelm. I'm guessing a gazpacho would be bad for this. It needs to be reflective. But they made a giant bowl of soup. And the moon came up. And the moon was in the sky and it came over the lip. And they looked down and in their bowl of soup, what appeared? The moon. And they got their cover and they threw their cover on. And in that moment, a cloud came across the sky covering the moon. The moon disappeared from the sky. So where must the moon be?
In the soup.
In the soup. They, in fact, captured the moon. And what did they do once they captured the moon? They had a celebration. This was exciting. Tomorrow night, when the moon was supposed to be getting smaller and smaller and disappear, they had the entire moon. All of it for themselves in Chelm. And they had a celebration, and they all come out, and the next day they're celebrating because they have captured the moon. And then as they are celebrating, and they're like, they're running around, they're listening to it, they're thinking what's in her soup, how is this all going, how is this all working? They are there celebrating, and they notice while it's kind of dark, it's getting a little brighter. It's getting brighter and brighter because what's appearing in the sky? The moon. The next night. Sorry about that. The moon is reappearing in the sky. But if the moon's in the sky, what's not in the soup? The moon. So wait a second. What did they do? They lift the cover, in fact, off the bowl of soup. And where is the moon not? Not in their bowl of soup. So somebody clearly left it out. And who did they suspect after all sorts of shenanigans? They got they got everybody's alibis. They did full interrogations. They were set to figure out who took the moon, let the moon out of the soup, and who was the one person that they weren't going to ask or bother because, of course, you never bother this person.
The rabbi.
The rabbi. Now, the rabbi, eventually, after much questioning and guilt and back and forth and back, he does, in fact, admit that, yes, he did release the moon. And now I read to you from, and this is a book called Capturing the Moon, Classic and Modern Jewish Tales by Rabbi Edward Feinstein. Just so you know, I'm going to read for you, and it gets delightful. A shock ran through the town.
Oh.
But why, dear Rabbi, why? They persisted. Why? And he looked at them through his bushy white eyebrows. I'm getting there. And stroked his long white beard. It's definitely getting there. Why? Because there are things we enjoy while we have them. They are ours to own, to hold, and enjoy, like a shirt someone offered, or a shoe. And there are other things, the rabbi continued, things of far greater value. We enjoy them only when we share them. Do you know what I mean? As he asks the crowd, someone says, love. Love, he says. Hugs, they reply. Joy, they all say. And the moon, said Shemuel the tailor. Yes, the moon as well, the rabbi said. Only when we share it can we really enjoy its light. And so I was the one who let the moon out, and now the whole world can share it. But what they asked, and I ask this as we prepare for Shabbat HaChodesh, as we prepare for this eclipse, as we prepare for this time in our lives, what will we do now on dark nights when the moon disappears? We will be sad and gloomy and dark, the people cried. That is true, responded the rabbi. Into every life comes times of sadness, darkness, and gloom. That's part of life. We'll just have to find something else to share that sustains us when that happens. Like what, they asked. Anyone guess? Soup. Like soup. We'll share soup. If you can't own the moon and share happiness all the time, the next best thing is to share
soup.
And it was declared a tradition. On nights when the moon disappeared and the night sky grew dark and gloomy, everyone shared soup. And it helped. For soup may not bring happiness, but it brings community together and helps us with chen, chesed, and rachamim, with grace, kindness, and compassion, bring light into our world. Amen?
Amen.
And so I hope I share some wisdom with you as we prepare for this week of eclipse, and we prepare for this week of Shabbat HaChodesh, and as you prepare your matzo ball soup for your seders, that you'll find ways of bringing people together to celebrate this incredible time of year. As we are